this special edition of Inside Government. My guest in studio for this edition is the National Disaster Coordinator and Fire Chief, Mr. Clive Richardson, and Section Head, Prevention, Preparation, Training, and Education of the Fire Department of St. Martin, Mr. Silvanico Pauletta. Gentlemen, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be a part of this edition of Inside Government.
Thank you for inviting us.
Happy to be here.
Let's get started. Preparations for 2019 hurricane season is the discussion that we would like to have and see it from two perspectives. One, the perspective of the Office of Disaster Management, and two, from the Fire Department, the preparation for hurricane season and the roles that are played and tasks that are carried out. When it comes to being prepared for the hurricane season this year, what is the focus of the Office of Disaster Management and, of course, the Fire Department?
Well, at the moment, we have been preparing since last year because after Irma in 2017, nearly everything we had was destroyed, or we noticed that there were certain gaps that had to be filled. So at the moment, we are busy filling those gaps. Each ESF coordinator is busy documenting the necessary information or adjusting what needs to be adjusted, so that we can have one complete plan. Okay. Each ESF is responsible for a sub-plan, and the sub-plan details what they do during a disaster, be it hurricane, tornadoes, tsunami, whatever. They have a detailed plan, sub-plan, that anyone can just pick up and know what has to be done. So those are some of the things that we are busy preparing. We're also busy readjusting the disaster plan because it's something that has to be adjusted. Mm-hmm. So that is also ongoing. But we are also busy with different trainings because we noticed after Irma also that certain gaps like in logistics, and different responsibilities. So we're busy getting a training for that with different organizations. So those are some of the steps that we're busy taking. As you know, last week, the mobile app was launched. It's only in the Google Play Store. We're still negotiating with Apple so that it can also be in the Apple Store.
Okay, but before we get into the app, I would like to look at the preparation, the training aspect that's very intensive for 2019, and quite a few stakeholders have gotten involved. Can you highlight some of the organizations that have played a key role in helping with the training aspect as it relates to disaster management this year?
Well, we have been doing a lot with USAR, with UNDAC also. We've had a World Food Program come in and give us a logistics training. We've had VNGI, Verenigde Nederlandse Gemeentes International, that has also been assisting. Also with K1, we have set up also trainings. So there's different organizations that have been invited to give trainings.
And how has that been going, or how has that worked out based on the exercise itself? What were the results like?
We are still acquiring the information from the HUREX. Mr. Pauletta is busy with that to make a full report that can also be given to the ministers, the Prime Minister, so that they can see how far we are, where the gaps are, what still has to be accomplished. So that's still in a process. I think it should be finalized this week or next week.
It should be finalized within 2 weeks after the HUREX. Mm-hmm. Actually 2 to 4 weeks. What is important to know is that it's an internal evaluation in the sense of every ESF indicated their training objectives and where they wanted to be, where they wanted to test themselves, how far they are with their preparations and where they can improve the crisis management. And that will be reflected in the evaluation report. And for the rest, we also checked in general if we meet the norm as set in the disaster plan.
Mr. Pauletta, confirm for me the historical aspect of this year's HUREX exercise. What was different about 2019 versus different HUREXs in the years past?
Okay, maybe let me give a short explanation how HUREX started. It started in the early 2000s. It was a hurricane exercise mainly carried out by the military. Within 10 years after that, more and more departments started to join. And since the last 5 to 6 years, we have basically all the emergency services are part of it. And also the ESFs has started to get engaged into it. And this year, for the first time, we had a full system test as operational, tactical, and strategic on the strategic level. And the interaction between those levels were tested so that we have a better picture on our preparedness in general and where we can tweak and improve our performance.
Participation levels for 2019?
It never was as good as it was this year. It was a full participation. Every ESF was there with the entire team, with the entire action center. So we really could observe how the interaction was between the different action centers and the different levels.
Chief, back to you concerning discussions with various key stakeholders within the organization as it relates to preparation for the 2019 hurricane season. For example, the Ministry of VROMI, dealing with specifically debris management. What was the focus this year in preparation in that area?
Mostly we have requested that cleanup. If you notice in the newspaper also, we have also advised that all loose debris by shipping companies or whatever should be moved into a location where it can be placed where it's not a danger to the surroundings. So basically we are trying with VROMI and with the rest of the coordinators to get as much done before than later. Because if you notice in 2017, 2 or 3 days before the hurricane, people started putting out a massive amount of garbage. And we're trying to cut back on that so that they do it up front. And I know VROMI put out a schedule where it detail where they will pick up and when, I think days with time, so that that can be not cause such a big problem in a later stage. So they're basically busy with debris management, making sure the trenches are cleaned and those type of things.
And specifically, what would you recommend the general public to be mindful of in preparation this year as it relates to their debris management within their household?
Well, basically, I would advise everyone to move as much as possible before and not wait for the last minute, because then it's not possible to pick up that amount of debris in such a short time. So I have also spoken to the head of repression at the fire department that we are setting up a plan to assist VROMI, that the fellows go out in different locations, and if they see spots or areas where there's a lot of debris, that they can take a picture, write down the address, and then send it to VROMI so that they can already make a plan or go and advise the persons or person that this should look into getting this out of the way as quickly as possible.
It's hurricane season. Are you prepared? Here are a few tips to keep in mind to help keep you and your family safe. The Atlantic hurricane season runs from June 1st to November 30th, with the peak occurring between mid-August and late October. This hurricane season, be sure to put together a go bag. A disaster supply kit including a flashlight, batteries, cash, first aid and supplies, medications, and copies of your critical information if you need to evacuate. This public service announcement was brought to you by the government of St. Martin.
Alarming systems. We've always had this be a discussion coming up when it comes to preparation for hurricane season. And we've always had an ongoing discussion internally as to the best approach to take when it comes to alarming systems. What are we looking at as Office of Disaster Management when it comes to enhancing our alarming system for the general public?
Well, at the moment, Mr. Peterson, the only alarming system we have is, like I said, the app, which can be downloaded only from Samsung or
Android users.
Right. And the rest is your page, DECOM page, Facebook, Because the siren system that we had, that is done, it was destroyed by Irma completely. So we had to remove the remaining poles that were there. And we got a donation from one of the island companies to help with a bucket truck to take down the sirens so that they don't cause a danger to the surrounding and people that walks by that they might tip over. So basically at the moment all we're using is your program, radio, the government radio station, and Facebook. We also have what do you call it? The app. So social media at the moment, radio, that's all we have at the moment.
The app and its launch, congratulations on getting that out to the public. The name of the app, Disaster Prep St. Martin, and with the launch, what is the expectations that the administration and organization has with regard to the app? You've already mentioned one, which is, of course, alerting. But what more can people expect from the Disaster Prep app?
The app gives information, not just on hurricanes, but earthquakes, tsunamis. It's not finalized as yet.
Right.
It's still a work in process. But at the moment, the part for hurricanes, it gives you what to do. It has you as the public, what you can do, and it has a part where the government, it tells you what the government does before, during, and after. So it's an information app based on the different disasters that can happen for preparedness, but it will also be used for sending information, updates. If a hurricane is coming, then like from 96 hours before, we can send an update and say, hey, look, start preparing because within 96 hours it should be in St. Martin. So that's what we really want to use it for. And we don't want to use it for too much to give too much information, because if you send too much information and people get up every day or every 15 minutes or whatever, they will get sick and tired of it and shut it down. So we're trying to avoid that and only use it to send information when it's necessary.
So the Disaster Prep St. Martin app only available right now on the Google Play Store. Possibility of Apple coming on board at a later time.
Yes, the request was sent to Apple, but they haven't confirmed as yet. They're a bit more difficult than the Google stores. So.
Gotcha. Expectations management. The public of St. Martin have certain high-level expectations of the organization, government administration, especially during the sensitive time of the hurricane season. Mr. Pauletta, what would you say the public should be aware of when it comes to the management of expectations? What should the public be mindful of during the hurricane season as it relates to their government working on their behalf to make sure that we are prepared for any approaching storm or hurricane?
What the public can be mindful of is that the government will take necessary preparations to secure the critical infrastructure and inform the public. Also, after the disaster, right away, a rapid damage assessment will be carried out on all levels to so that decisions can be taken on how to normalize the society as fast as possible. So that is the main task of the disaster management organization at that moment, that is headed by the Prime Minister, to normalize society so we can go back to what we do best.
I would also think that the expectations management is two-way. So there is what the people expect from its government, and then there is what the government expects from the society. What would those aspects be?
Well, one was already mentioned just now, which is the debris. So first of all, to secure your dwelling and your direct surrounding by cleaning up, for example. And second, that you have a family plan and an emergency kit in place. More information on that you can find as well in the disaster app or in communications that are shared also through the different media. And last but not least, to stay put. Find a safe location and sit out the hurricane. If you have checked your dwelling and it's not safe, find another safe location. And contact the emergency services in case of an emergency.
Chief, when it relates to building back better, which is the mantra that everyone has adapted since 2017, people are tending to go in the direction of thinking of building a concrete bunker, and they're thinking that's the safest route. But there's some key things about managing this that people need to be mindful of. What should people continue to keep in mind before going in that direction?
I think everyone is looking at their safety and building back better. For some means, building back more sturdy so that it can withstand hurricanes. But like I said, you also have earthquakes. When I look at it, when you build back and you build with concrete roofing, at a certain point, air always gets in. And when it pressure builds up, it will explode. The weakest point will explode. So most usually that will be windows, because as you've seen after Irma, there were houses with concrete roofs, but all the windows blew out because of the pressure buildup. So again, I'm not an expert, but based on conversations I've had between here in Barbados, in different Turks and Caicos, it has its weaknesses and its strengths, and you have to look in between which is the best match for you.
The marine and boating sector is another area that we always tend to want to focus in on, especially when it comes to covering the key sectors when it comes to disaster preparedness, hurricane season preparedness. What tips and advice is in place in regard to people who are living on boats and are within our waters? What is the best direction to take to prepare for the hurricane season?
Every year we advise people that are staying on boats to have an alternative plan, either make arrangements with a hotel or friends or family. Because as we have seen, the lagoon, which used to be considered safe, hasn't been as safe as we considered. After Irma, it was a devastation there. So we advise everyone. I remember a couple of years ago, I can't remember, it was 2014, when there was one person that stayed on a boat that also lost their life. So our advice is always try to have a backup plan to stay by family or friends, or if necessary in a hotel and not on the boats.
It's hurricane season. Are you prepared? Here are a few tips to remember to help keep you and your family safe. 6 hours before hurricane strikes, remember, if you're not in an area that is recommended for evacuation, plan to stay at home or where you are and let friends and family know where you're located. Close storm shutters and stay away from windows. Flying glass from broken windows could injure you. Turn your refrigerator or freezer to the coldest setting and only open it when necessary. If you lose power, food will last longer. Keep a thermometer in the refrigerator to be able to check the food temperature when the power is restored. For the latest weather updates and emergency instructions, turn on your TV and/or radio and visit stmartingov.org. This hurricane season, remember, it only takes one. This public service announcement was brought to you by the government of St. Martin.
Hurricane passes. 2019, I believe now is closed off. But in preparation for 2020, what are some key things that individuals, in this case perhaps businesses, needs to know concerning the hurricane passes procedure?
Well, basically, it's not all businesses that receive hurricane passes. We have a type of checklist which is used. Because the reason we give hurricane passes is to cut down on the amount of persons that are on the road so that emergency services can do their job. So that FROMI can do their job safely and try to cut down on the amount of risks that are created by all people that goes on the road. You have those that just go to see the devastation or just want to drive around to see what happens. But this causes conflict with when you're doing road cleanup. You get traffic jams, and so the hurricane passes was in 2000. 16, there came, I think it was 2016 or 2016, a new list was made on who all requires hurricane passes. Usually you can send an email to hurricane pass requests at stmartingov.org. And basically when you send the name of the organization and the request for a disaster or a hurricane pass. As a matter of fact, we have two, the disaster and the hurricane pass. The disaster pass gives you access all the time, and the hurricane pass gives you slots, which is then given out by the radio or when people can come on the road. I think usually that's like after 24 or 48 hours when we have done the most cleanup, then we allow them to come on the road. When requesting it, they ask you for different documents. They ask for a copy of the business license, proof of registration at the Chamber of Commerce. You have a copy of valid St. Martin ID card. You have the 50 guilder stamp that you have to pay for, and one passport picture. And then you get a hurricane pass. The hurricane pass, I think, is valid for 2 years, and the disaster pass is valid for 3 years, if I remember correctly.
Community assistance. We see that has been building up where a disaster or emergency situation specifically would take place and the community would quickly get involved or try to help out. And of course, they've been recognized, those who have been successful this year in doing so. However, I'm sure there must be some safety issues that come along with citizens taking matters into their own hands. What is your view on this right now, Chief?
My view is that we can use as much help as we can get. And just basically saying that we applaud the communities for coming together in assisting where assistance can be rendered. We would like it to be more organized. So I know ESF 7 is busy with the different community leaders to see how they can better organize through them so that they can better assist, be it with logistics or cleanup or whatever. They're busy trying to get it better organized, but through the community leaders. So, I mean, taking the law into your own hand is not always advised. So that's something we advise against. But in assisting also in information gathering, I don't know, I know you realize we just signed up, the Prime Minister just signed a memorandum of understanding with SEDIMA. SEDIMA has a lot of tools, as they have been around for a very long time. And they have a lot of tools that we can use to better gather information and better inform the public on whatever type of disaster it may be. Us signing up now with SEDIMA, we have access to the toolbox, and we will be definitely using that and try either through community leaders or through schools, whatever possibility there is, to gather the necessary information we need to better prepare and be a more resilient country. So the community is always necessary in helping build back and helping being prepared.
Mr. Pauletta, training, education kind of segues right over to you. What are we doing on an annual basis when it comes to education within the school systems? I believe the fire department does focus on getting into the schools and having an awareness campaign of some type. What can you tell us?
Yes, annually the fire department goes into the schools and target mainly the third graders by the age of 8 to give them a personal safety awareness and also educate them on what they can do to make their surroundings safer. Right now we're in the process to get this on a more formal level with the Ministry of Education, so that we want to take it on a higher level, as we have seen successes in the region, for example, in Cuba, working with this system.
Why particularly the third graders and age 8?
Well, the Ministry of Education has indicated to us that that's the age when children becomes more aware of their surroundings, and that at that moment is the best time to also educate them on the risk that are there in their surroundings.
Any special activities planned this year or for the next coming school year?
Well, one of the things we're looking forward to is our annual prevention month that will be in October and will be closed off on the last Sunday of October with an open house. And this year we're looking to include more partners to make it even bigger, better, and more educational for everyone.
That's all the time we have, gentlemen. Final words as disaster coordinator and fire chief for 2019 hurricane season preparedness and, of course, emergency preparedness overall. What would you say, Chief?
The only thing I want to say, Mr. Peterson, is that everyone should start preparing from now. You know, even if it's buying a can of corned beef and putting it aside every week or every month, so that if something should happen, you are prepared. And make sure that your surroundings, as Mr. Pauletta said, your surroundings is debris cleared. If you don't think that your home is safe enough, start making arrangements with friends, family. The Prime Minister is very direct pertaining to the shelters, that she would like to have as much shelters opened, just if case is necessary. There's agreements made with K1, who will then man the shelter with the police and the military for security, Red Cross for medical. So there's certain agreements in place, and that everyone knows that. And just start preparing from now, because there's no guarantee we won't get hit, and there's no guarantee that we will get hit. Well, at least there's a guarantee we will get hit, but when, nobody knows. So preparations on all levels.
Fire Chief, National Disaster Coordinator Clive Richardson, Section Head Prevention, Preparation, Training and Education, Mr. Silvanico Pauletta. Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time and being a part of this special edition of Inside Government.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson, and the listeners.
And to our radio listeners and television viewers, thank you for tuning in and being a part of our special edition of Inside Government. If you've missed our broadcast, be sure to log on for video on demand at the official website of the Government of St. Martin. That's stmartingov.org. And of course, stay tuned in to St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 for rebroadcasts throughout the course of the day. On behalf of the team here at the Department of Communication, I'm Cedric Peterson. Thanks for tuning in.